Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Katie Gideon, and I will be the on camera facilitator dialing in from Edinburgh, Scotland. I am so glad to see all of you, especially on this lovely Saturday. I hope everyone has had a great August. And who's excited for a new month? I feel like there's always that kind of, I get excited near the end of the month because I get to transition into a new month, even though I'm definitely a summer fan. So I am going to be sad when summer leaves, but the fact that we do get to start a new month is awesome and love that. I also want to give a huge shout out to my co-facilitator who will be in the chat, Jennifer O, who is dialing in from Texas. We will forever be Team Texas because I did just relocate over here. Maybe not just. I relocated over here from Texas. So we will forever be Team Texas, but we always love hosting these events together. And as always, I love seeing some of our returning socialers as well as some of those that haven't continued. And again, if you had a great August, we're so glad and we can't wait to continue that momentum into September. Maybe if you didn't have that great of an August, this is the opportunity to kind of take that big deep breath, let it go, and start anew with a new monthly journal. And then, as always, let us know in the chat if this is your first social. Definitely, if this is maybe your first time joining us in a social, or maybe your first kind of month with Silk and Sonder, we love to hear that. But then, as a note, make sure your chat is set to everyone. That shares it with the larger Sonder family in the chat. It'll default to hosts and panelists. That will come to just myself and Jennifer. So do feel free to use the hosts and panelists, especially if you are still trying to kind of get comfortable with the whole sharing with, sharing in the chat. But this is certainly a safe space. And so we love sharing. And then the interesting thing, especially when it comes to being a first timer, is there's definitely going to be a little bit of a learning to kind of gain some of that knowledge on how to attend socials. So again, just take a little bit of a deep breath because again, you're gonna probably wanna do stuff in your journal, listen to the music, listen to me, read the chat, take care of all the examples so it can be a little bit overwhelming. So if you just wanna focus on a couple things, or maybe you just wanna take notes and come back to your journal a little bit later, no one is gonna be grading you, no one is gonna be expecting some sort of status. And all of those. So it's one of those. And then we will move into that with the be kind and courteous to yourselves and others. No promotions or spam, respect everyone's privacy, no hate speech or bullying, limit repetitive product and accessory questions, redirect customer care inquiries to our team, hello@silkandsonder.com. And then Sonder Socials are a tool to help elevate your emotional health through the power of community. Be responsible for your own emotions, well-being, and decisions. So we are glad that you have come exactly as you are. We wanted to have the opportunity to celebrate the wins, acknowledge the not so great things, but and get excited about the new month, the new theme, and kind of all of those things that kind of come with it. So with that being said, we do have a new month. The new month theme for September is knowledge, which I already love the idea of knowledge and moving into September because it certainly always reminds me of the like back to school vibes. I was a huge nerd. To be honest, I'm still a huge nerd. I loved school. I always loved school. I still love school in the sense of I, went and got my undergrad. 10 years later, I went back and got my master's. And because I'm a glutton for that knowledge, somewhat punishment, I have started an MBA. So I truly love the idea of acquiring knowledge through education. But that's not the part of knowledge that I'm going to kind of talk about now. So for me, I need to focus on the self knowledge. And that's, again, I feel like a good tie-in to kind of why we're here on the self-care journey, but gaining more of that self-awareness, because I'm also a big fan of acknowledging, what you don't know what you don't know. But when it comes to self-knowledge and self-aware, I love always trying to like take the scientific method approach to it. So if I do something well, I then want someone to tell me what I did wrong. What didn't go well, what didn't go right. So in acquiring self-knowledge, I get to dwell on the like negativity and I get to pick apart all of those things, which seems certainly counterproductive when it comes to self-knowledge and self-awareness. But that is truly what I am aware of. And so I feel like you always kind of have to acknowledge, the positive things that you do, but on the flip side, you need to acknowledge the negative things that you do. And it's more of in my acquisition for self-knowledge, I absolutely like to feed into some of those negative self-talk. That is when the little voice in my head, her megaphone gets amplified. I think she goes from like a little footstool to like a step ladder. So she's got the full audience and attention. So I am super excited to dive into the self-knowledge component. And I love utilizing the tools for all of these to do it. But I know I need to set some of those boundaries and certainly be careful with myself that I am not dwelling too much into the things that I didn't do right or the things that I am lacking or the things that are going to impact that kind of self-growth and understanding, because we still want to have, we want to acknowledge the not so great, but we don't want to dwell on those. So I would certainly love to hear your thoughts in the chat about kind of how you're embracing knowledge, because we know that that can mean a lot of things. And certainly if you haven't read Mayhaw's letter in the beginning of the journal, there were a couple things that I really liked highlighting is that everyone has their own unique knowledge. And that is not only from the things that you learn, but also your experiences and how you've acquired those skills, your relationships. All of those things kind of feed into this unique knowledge that only you bring. And then being able to reflect on your own relationship with knowledge. So again, I feel like that falls into the self-knowledge category of, do I like to learn things? Do I like to understand things? Do I like to tie it into some of that self-awareness? Or do I take it a little too far with the like know-it-all attitude? So I feel like it becomes one of those. So I think it also is a good structure to kind of build how you want to explore knowledge this month. And then at the same time, I love the idea of sharing your insight, sharing the knowledge that you have acquired, because there is nothing more magical or special than hearing the power of everyone's stories. I am a big advocate of telling stories and telling your stories because no one has the same story as you. And all it takes is that, one kind of really weird or quirky thing that you thought that you did could absolutely resonate or completely change somebody's perspective. And I feel like there's just so much magic and power in being able to share those insights. And that can either be through journaling, some of the social media, which I know can be tricky, but it's also sometimes, if you are at a networking event or you go out and visit friends or friends that you don't know as well, being able to share some of those ideas and insights not only grounds it for everybody just personally, but I feel like it just expands the knowledge. So highly recommend taking a look at that letter. And so we are going to go through an opening activity. We're going to work on our August reflections. We will set up our September intentions, and then we will work on those monthly trackers, the mood tracker and the habit tracker. So please join me on page 19 in your September journal. Don't worry if your September journal hasn't arrived yet. You can just grab a notepad or paper and we'll show you the example of what page 19 looks like. But this has been a really, I think, great tool to kind of start exploring the theme. Because you can ask yourself, what are some things that come to mind when you think of the word knowledge? But the big reminder when it comes to acrostic poem is don't second guess yourself. Kind of just start writing, try to come up with at least 9 words or phrases that describe what knowledge means to you. And so then you can see if you can work them into the first letter of each line for the known word knowledge. And then you can use sentences, you can use individual sentences, it can just be words, or you can have that really amazing, which I feel like takes just amazing creative brain power to connect it into like the full poem across, if you have a sentence that goes across multiple letters, I'm I'm in awe. That's like varsity level acrostic poem writing. So here is that example on page 19, and I have a couple other examples. These are a couple of the different ideas, again, weaving into some of those that are just kind of standalone phrases, standalone sayings. You can obviously pull in affirmations or quotes or some of those other things. And then the one in the middle is, again, kind of just some of those words that associate it with it, but that they can kind of still feel the fuller sentence. And then here are some of the examples that were in the Sonder Club app, which I think are really fun and amazing. And like I said, I'm always so impressed, and I'm also super jealous of all the very beautiful handwriting. So you have a couple of these examples. So again, we are going to kick off our social working on page 19, that acrostic poem. I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to turn on some music, but definitely you can continue to share your thoughts on the theme for knowledge in case you want to work on your acrostic poem a little bit later, or just looking for some inspiration, or you can definitely dive right in and share some of those lines from your acrostic poem around knowledge. And we'll see you soon. Thank you everyone for sharing. Apologies, I had to do a wardrobe change because I've been having boiler problems and I was very hot up here. But thank you everybody for sharing. I appreciate seeing one, the creative ties into how you can embrace the idea of knowledge, and joining in some of those ideas and concepts. And certainly this is one of those, what I like about the poem is you can certainly work on it now. You can get it kind of knocked out at the beginning of the month, or it is something that you can kind of always come back to throughout the month if you don't force what isn't there, as we always say. So maybe it's something you want to come back to. Maybe you want to kind of do a couple different versions during the month, use some of those blank pages and create, a beginning of the month acrostic poem, an end of the one, middle month, and the end of the month kind of as you transition there. But it really is just an idea as we start kind of building our thought and relationship around the word knowledge, because I think that's what's great about all of these themes is that each one is certainly different. But then being able to kind of pull, like I said, I want to know what I've learned from all of these things. So then being able to pull something from each month under these kind of larger banners, I think is really great, because then there's all the satisfaction of kind of what did you do with your year? Well, I did these things. So there's certainly a lot of satisfaction there. So with that being said, we are going to move into the monthly planner portion of this. So we are going to be on page 8 with the August reflections. And so this is, like we said, it becomes a really valuable tool to be able to look at the things that went well and celebrate them and acknowledge them, because sometimes it can be tricky to kind of say you did a good job or acknowledge that something did well and that you're happy about it, and then acknowledge the challenges. Like I said, I can definitely come up with all the challenges pretty quickly, and I feel like that's also a valuable kind of litmus test to figure out, what kind of month did you have, but then also being to highlight some of those favorite moments, what you want to do to start, stop, and continue, because we do love turning a lot of those things into actionable items. So it is a way to kind of embrace all that was August in its, good, bad, and everything in between. So the August wins, these can be something that you did, something that made you smile, made you happy, an accomplishment. Challenges, something that didn't go right, something out of your control, stumbling blocks, frustration, or even something that just took up a little too much time in your head. For me, for sure, one of my challenges was I had a lot of maintenance issues, hence the boiler in my apartment, that really was just taking up too much energy and time, and it was really frustrating. But again, would we have considered that kind of a self-awareness or a challenge? Probably not, but it was certainly something that I would have liked to have spent my time doing other things. And then if you had already worked kind of in the August journal, you can pull some of those rose buds and thorns. This is one of those, it's not a, you can have essentially an open note type concept. So you can use your phone to review your calendar, photos from the last month. And again, just because we give you some time now, you can always kind of come back to these to be able to use them. But then what's also a really great component of being able to reflect on the previous month was that you can acknowledge some of the things that you want to start doing in September, maybe some of the things you want to stop doing, or maybe some of the things that you want to continue to. And that's how we can then set up the September intentions, by pulling some of that information forward, or some of those tasks forward, as we start to build, really good habits, or again, some of those initiatives, or some sort of the accountability, because Silk and Sonder is certainly the best accountability buddies that I've had in a really long time. And so a couple of the examples that we have from that, again, are just the kind of the wins, the challenges, and everything in between. I like the idea of, again, being able to not only acknowledge what you want to start, stop, or continue, but ask yourself the whys and the hows, so that we can then carry those over into the trackers or the intention pages. And you can always use stickers. You can always use words, phrases, especially with the start and stop. Maybe these are more a little bit on the checklist, or maybe these are more like kind of squishy ideas that you want to start, stop, and you're going to then kind of formulate into how you're going to do that in the other sections. Again, here are some more examples. Especially when it comes to the start and stop. For me, a lot of my start and stop and continues tend to be the like larger, grandiose ideas that I'll then pull into the intentions for this is the, okay, here's my idea of what I want to do, and here's how I'm going to do it. So mine's the top right with the simple and small steps forward is what I want to start. Stop procrastination and delaying things. I've been so bad about that, especially in August, because I've had, things that were certainly going to be a little bit more fun. So my time management is not what it needs to be. And then continue with my honest expectations and realistic changes. So those are kind of the ideas there. So let us know what were some of your wins or challenges in August, or what are some of the things that you want to start, stop, and continue. We'll see you soon. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. I love the fact that, again, we can acknowledge those wins along with the challenges, because there are definitely times the challenges come a little bit quicker. But as Sarah mentioned, looking through her camera roll of her phone really helped put more of the wins in perspective, because I feel like you take pictures definitely of the wins or the things that make you happy or the favorite moments. So being able to kind of see those, and I think it really also goes hand in hand with the mood trackers and just there, because then you kind of realize, you can certainly think of all the maybe probably not so great things that happen, but then when you're able to kind of see or acknowledge or track some of those things, you realize that probably wasn't as negative as you kind of originally envisioned it. Because I'm definitely one of those people that whatever happened most recently tends to overshadow the feelings and emotions tied to those. So being able to look at kind of zoom out for the full month perspective, I think is always really nice. But certainly takes kind of some practice and a little bit of the kind of not thinking, not second guessing, not editing myself as we go. So thank you everybody for sharing. We are now going to switch over to page 9 for those September intentions. And so there are some set categories or preset categories with the spiritual health, personal life, physical health, key relationships, money management, or personal goals. However, because this is your journal, and a good thing to kind of always start out is asking yourself, what do you need? And the first thing you can certainly do with this page is change those categories. So maybe instead of spiritual health, mental health or connection works a little bit more for you. Instead of personal life, maybe it's more creative life, your home life, or I like the idea of personal fun. Same thing with physical health. Maybe you want to focus more on your mental health, or specifically your heart health, brain health. I feel like brain health and knowledge kind of go hand in hand. I like the idea of even kind of acknowledging the specific relationship that you want to focus on instead of just a more generalized relationship. So defining the key relationships. So maybe that's a family relationship, work relationship, marriage relationship, or even a particular member of any of those categories. Same thing with maybe money management is not exactly one of your September priorities. Maybe it's more time management or home management. Or even I saw someone talking about their children or kids, maybe it's kid management. And same thing with professional goals. Maybe if you are in just a different chapter of your life, maybe it's more a learning goal, creative goal, gardening goal, vacation goals, or even just kind of a knowledge goal, something kind of fun there. And then as always, if you kind of maybe need a little bit even more inspiration, we've included the different themes for the month, and these are the national months. So you have, you know, sorry. You have Hispanic Heritage Month, the Better Breakfast Month. I'm not a breakfast eater, so maybe I need to embrace that one a little bit more. The National Sewing Month. I know we have a ton of crafters out there. The Self-Care Awareness Month, I think, is key. And then also National Square Dancing Month is fun, so maybe that's a way to incorporate some of your physical health, or maybe a different kind of creative goal or a knowledge goal, learn how to do that. But for some of the tips and tricks when it comes to intentions is you can always use the theme of knowledge to set your intentions, or you can focus on maybe a particular area. So maybe you need to set intentions around self-love, self-knowledge, or self-talk. You can use different types of things for inspiration. So those could be songs, lyrics, quotes, Bible verses, affirmations, or even just questions to ask yourself. I saw in the chat that someone earlier mentioned in their intentions is that they came up with their idea of their intention, but then they asked themselves 3 questions associated with that. You can also ask yourself how you want to feel this time next month. So what are some of the things you maybe need to do in these categories, or maybe some of the things you want to start, stop, or continue in those categories, or you can even break it down into one thing to let go of, or one thing to start doing under each of these categories. And then as always, stickers are meant to be used. So if you are a sticker hoarder, pull them out, put them on the page, because they are excited and delighted to be used. So here are again a couple of the examples. The one on the left is highlighting the things that they want to do, and then the things they want to let go. Same thing with they want to do more of or less of some of those things to support those different categories. And I love the idea of the action or the movement for that particular category, but also we can only move so much and so consistently without needing a rest or a refresh or a relax. So being able to acknowledge that I'm going to move in this category, but I'm going to rest and relax on these type of components of that category. Again, I'm a big visual person as well, so I love the iconography of the stickers or the phrases or the doodles. And same thing with maybe you're not ready to kind of commit into those intentions because it may sound a little scary having to commit to something for 30 days, but really it goes by really quickly. But you can always kind of try out and test out some of the intentions by putting them on those little magical Post-its and then coming back and putting them in the magical pen and paper to the page, because that's where all the power comes from. These are two examples of rephrasing some of those categories. So you have learning goals, mental health, home management, and then kind of a little bit more of a tailored, their stress health is going to be associated with stress-free, physical health is going to be improving, key relationships are connecting. So kind of adding an additional kind of definition or thought into how you're going to embrace these different intention categories. Same thing with the start and stop concept. You want to start doing something in these areas, but stop doing other things. And then I liked the idea on the right that they wanted to feel these ways. And so what they were going to work on in those categories, and then those were going to be tied directly to the habits, which they then carried over into the habit tracker. So being able to kind of start cleverly knitting all of these things together, I think is great, especially as you kind of, but again, you can journal however you want. So maybe it's a standalone page, or maybe it is starting to build across all of those connecting pieces. Here are a couple examples of quotes that can certainly inspire. So you can pull any of those again under the knowledge theme, or just what you want to kind of start, stop, and continue. Same thing with, we have some amazing songs that associate with those particular intentions, and then being able to ask yourself some of those questions. So maybe it's less of kind of something that you want to achieve in those intentions, and more of the questions to ask yourself as you go through to support those intentions. And then again, more stickers, you gotta love the stickers. And then breaking down the idea of here's where you want to feel in these different intentions. So the I want to, and then kind of answer the question, and then how you support it into the different categories. And I like the fact that they kept some of them blank, because maybe you don't need all 3 sections, or maybe it's something you want to come back to as you continue to explore those intentions through the month. Maggie, awesome, love it. Maggie's is the one on the left. And then again, the one on this particular slide on the left, it's that combination of changing the intention category with throwing in some of that iconography with the ways you want to do it. And then I also really like the one on the right, because they completely cut out the intentions and turned it into more of the Maggie, I like your style. What can I say? And then the one on the right is completely kind of taking out the intention category and more of the kind of affirmations, or how you want to see what you want to do. So it's more of the kind of forecasting. And then obviously the visual there is that, so that they are predicting these different things that are going to happen in September. So I love almost that positive affirmation of. So let us know what intentions you're working on, or do you have a particular approach to how you come up with your intentions? We would love to have that conversation in the chat. I will see you in a little bit. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. And so clearly, there are different ways you can approach the particular intention section. And I do love that someone pointed out that a lot of their intentions tend to stay the same from month to month, and that is awesome. I feel like it becomes one of those if you start to see kind of words that start to mean the same thing, especially if you have a word of the year or embrace a word of the month, that kind of builds some of the consistency. So you don't always have to come up with something brand new each and every time. It is an opportunity to come up with something new, but if there's something that you're genuinely seeing progress on, and again, no one has to define what progress looks to you. That's absolutely your definition. So if you have some of those things that continue to resound and resonate with you, absolutely embrace them and continue to move that momentum forward. So I feel like don't always feel like it's got to be something new. It's got to be something completely innovative. It absolutely is one of those, the what do you need and how can you kind of build on this progression, or how can you continue to support yourself for whatever self-care journey that you are on. So thank you, everybody, for sharing. We are now going to move into those mood and habit trackers, which are going to be on page 10 and 11 in your September journal. Always get a little tripped up as we transition. So the first one we're going to tackle is on page 10, which is the mood tracker. So obviously this can see identified trends on how you're feeling, but what really has become a magical kind of tool, I think, within the tracker is that you can notice and begin to making shifts, but you can also start overlaying multiple things that could potentially impact your mood or impact your feelings, or you can completely repurpose this. So you can choose either 2 to 3 of the predominantly negative feelings, or a neutral feeling, and then 2 to 3 positive feelings, or you can make those adjustments as well. You can always focus on the theme of knowledge for the month. You can either do one emotion for each day or whatever is the strongest, but you can also repurpose this. So don't worry, I will come back to the mood wheel, but here's those kind of different categories. But what I found as I was tracking my mood is that I would pull some of the more kind of stronger emotions. So for me, I was definitely pulling something on the frustrated or angry category. And then I was on the other side kind of doing excited, happy, joyous. But I feel like I was definitely realizing that I was on this kind of wild roller coaster that I wasn't quite as keen on. So that's where I kind of moved a little bit less into that category and tried to find a few more and more neutral to keep me a little bit more even kill. So then it was kind of like just agitated or kind of annoyed. So I was able to acknowledge that trend was kind of keeping me on this wild roller coaster that I just didn't really want to be on. And since I do gravitate to dwelling on the negative a bit, I realized that I kind of needed to cut that out a little bit, because each time I would go back and review those emotions, I would champion that feeling again. So other ways to repurpose that is you can use it for a daily affirmation tracker. One of our other facilitators, Bailey, has used it for anxiety as well as energy levels. And same thing with, you can kind of scale these 1 through 6. It can be any type of scale, any type of number, any sort of quantification. So we have the hexagons, which again, I feel like everyone has their preference, either team hexagon or team circles. I am definitely more of a team hexagon fan, and that's just because I like the fact that I can split it into the 3 different types during the day, so I can check in with my mood at the beginning, the middle, and the end of my day. So here are a couple of different examples of how to do the tracking. So the one on the top left focuses on panic attacks, which again, I feel like that's another one of those tools that you kind of think that you had a really bad month, or you feel like you were focused a lot on the kind of negative moods for that month. But then when you track them on the day-to-day, you're able to zoom out a little bit and realize that while they were very potentially intense or powerful, you probably didn't have as many as that you think, because our memory is a tricky thing. Then you can do the kind of traditional moods. I liked the idea of overlaying multiple variables. Like I said, I'm a scientist in my in my work life, so being able to lower the type of emotions that you were feeling tied into the type of energy that you had, I think is really awesome. You can also use it as a book tracker or any sort of hobby tracker. If you're on a particular workout or kind of physical care goal, here are a couple examples of those, whether you're kind of in those particular journey. Here are a couple other the ways to repurpose. You can do a variation on a food tracker. So if you are trying to figure out if you have certain symptoms, or if you're trying to incorporate more of the food groups, you can tailor it that way. The bottom left is actually one of Bailey's anxiety trackers. Same thing with being able to do the energy tracker. Did you have more energy in these different categories? And then you could kind of bring in the iconography or just the kind of check marks there. I like also the idea of having your moods there, but then did it make you feel sick? Were you in pain? Were you actually really productive? And then kind of overlaying the symbols and the colors. Like I said, you can get real technical with this and it's awesome. Another book tracker, Jennifer O is the one on the bottom right. And then what I also love about some of these trackers is that you can use them to check in with the journal, because some of us are on that like productivity where it's like, I feel like I'm not using my journal because not all the pages or the sections are completed, which if you haven't joined us on a weekly setup, I highly recommend joining us for a weekly setup social, because we deal with all those thoughts, feelings, and emotions. But to turn your intentions, your mood tracker into an intentions tracker so that you can then go back to those amazing intentions that you just set and focus on one or even multiple of those within the day. I think that's genius, especially because I will notoriously forget my intentions. So being able to kind of tie it in a little bit more into my day-to-day kind of routine, I think is amazing. A couple other ones, again, you have the mood tracker, and then the size of the color shows how strong that emotion was. Someone diligently overlaid the different moods that they're tracking, but if that impacted their midday and evening, kind of in an opportunity to see how you're feeling each day versus how that all wraps up into the month. Here are again some repurposing ones with a workout tracker and a stress tracker. I saw that someone was trying to not to take on other people's stresses. So maybe you can kind of do one of those things. But I also liked the idea of acknowledging that you're in a stressful situation or a stressful day, and then how you can de-escalate that based on the experience level. So 1 through 3 were a certain type of de-escalation, and the 4 to 6 were kind of maybe the stronger de-escalation techniques. Like I said, the multiple varies make me so happy. If financial intentions is kind of your focus, there's a spending tracker. There's a self-care tracker, same thing again, the different types of workouts that you can incorporate, or even just the acknowledgement of you had a tough day and you had a great day, and the kind of spectrum that that can show up on. And then you can maybe overlay other variables with, is it work related? Like, especially if you have like a tough work day, is that going to impact your energy levels for your rest of your day? So, same thing with, again, we've got the replenish tracker, a boost tracker. So what do you need to do to boost your mood? How many times did you do that? So love the various ideas for how to do that. And so let us know how you use your mood tracker, and we will see you soon. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. Again, always love the idea of these trackers for sure, especially if you are working with a medical professional on whatever journey you're on. It is an amazing tool that's already built into all the things that you can track, either that are important to you or potentially important as you navigate your own self-care journey. So the fact that you can then overlay multiple variables, I really like. And then I also, I feel like everyone has their preferences with team hexagon or team circle. But I love that sometimes it's nice to have at least something that looks a little bit different, shake it up, give a little bit more perspective. So it's always great to start one new each month. And now we're going to move into that last tracker, the habit tracker, which is on page 12. So this is an opportunity to start new habits or stop doing habits that don't serve you, or continue habits that bring value. So these can be tied directly to your intentions, again, with those kind of start, stop, and continue. But I can also speak from personal experience. I am a creature of habit. So I have the same 3 habits every month on the things that I want to do. And sorry, page 11. You can obviously use knowledge as your focus. You can pick a theme. You can always continue habits from last month, last quarter. Maybe it's a consistency through the year, but always find balance, especially a combination of kind of returning habits and then trying out new habits. And then the way that I like to use the monthly habit tracker versus the weekly habit tracker is the monthly, this one that we're working on. I want to do these things every single day. I just haven't figured out how much of my day is going to be committed to those particular habits yet. That's what I use for the weekly setup for. So here are a couple of different ideas around those different habits that maybe you want to embrace or that you want to know. You can make these very wild and creative and colorful. I also like the ability that you can acknowledge that maybe some of your weekday habits are going to look different than your weekend habits. Or it is also a way for you to kind of go through. Don't worry, I will go back to the slides. Again, more of the like coloring as you kind of work through the idea of here are the habits that you're doing and maybe the satisfaction level that you did or the times that you did it. You can then overlay some of those numbers, and then also fully acknowledging if you have vacation coming up or those type of things. Maybe you want to use more of breakdown into kind of AM habits versus PM habits. The particular one on the right, they are trying to build their own small business. So this is their business habit tracker. So these are the things that they're going to do to support their different businesses. I know it's in the kind of mood tracker format, but I feel like it fell into the habit category a bit well. Same thing with here are other habits, and here how you can replenish those habits. So when you talk about the replenish line, here are the replenish activities that you've agreed with. Same thing, I'm going to do physical care. Here are the different ways I can do physical care, being able to use those. And then same thing with, I changed up my habit tracker. I'm the one on the left. I was kind of struggling with managing my MBA requirements. So I broke it down into very specific things. And this was all focused to the MBA coursework that I was doing. And that was, I needed reminders just to check the school email on a regular basis. Because those were things that I was just struggling to do. So you can certainly tailor it more to a specific activity or a particular creative goal, hobby, something that you can do. So you can absolutely tailor it to be as specific as you want, or again, some of those more generic habits. So I'm going to give you some time to work on the habits. So we would love to see what kind of habits you are working on, and certainly how you approach the habit tracker. And we'll see you soon. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. And then what I did see is that someone pointed out, Elizabeth, that the idea of marking off the weekends and even numbering the type of weeks. And the reason I think that's really awesome, especially is if you're going on vacation or you have people visiting and you want to be present. If you want to be present, it's a really good tool to kind of give yourself the grace to leave those blank, especially if that's not how you want to spend that time, either on vacation or that. So I love the idea of seeing those, especially around holidays, your birthday, any of those vacations of, maybe that's exactly what you need when you go on vacation, or maybe it's probably the little opposite than what you need on your vacation. But thank you, everybody, for sharing in the chat. I cannot believe that we are already done. It always goes by so fast, even with the extra 15 minutes for the monthly setup. But as always, we would love to see your examples and continue the conversation in the Silk and Sonder app. Jennifer is starting to put some of those links in the chat, but with some of the Zoom updates, if you are on your phone, those links don't work, but don't worry, you'll get a follow-up email with all of those. And then the other thing is the YouTube link. Those will be updated during the weekdays. So if you have a social that you miss, or you can't attend one, or you want to get a different facilitator's perspective on it, you can overlay all of those. The chat isn't in there, but you'll have the facilitator and the slides in case you missed them or need a little bit more inspiration. This is a copy of my playlist. I will include the Spotify link in the chat. And then speaking of other socials, Jennifer O and I are switching spots, but we'll be in the weekly setup social later today. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. I cannot wait to start September. I saw that someone likes the Burr months, so definitely that transition. So not only is it a new month, a new theme, but potentially a new season, which is always really fun and great. So we hope to see you at a future event, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.
We may be dreaming, but we never sleep. Pockets shallow, but they still feel deep. We may borrow, but we play to keep. We are lions, though we may look like we're sheep. We have secrets that we never tell, but you can hear them if you listen well. The perfect grain of sand on a beach is just out of sight, but not out of reach. Like a siren in the dark, we are calling for that spark. From a new sun, a new day, a new dawn, we will find the life that's been living underneath our eyes. Take a breath, it's time to let it go, leave it behind. So open your arms and call out your brand new name. Say goodbye to the yesterdays that owned us, 'cause today is not the same. So cut the lock and let it fall away. Don't waste a knock, we'll make the walls give way. Kick the door in, let the hinges sing. We are braced to breathe through anything. Done with dreaming of the why and how. Take your places, we are ready now. For a new light, a new chance, a new fight. We will find the life that's been living underneath our eyes. Take a breath, it's time to let